welcome back. Hi, it's me, Epiphany, back with another video. Finally remembered to look at the camera and smile for the opening thumbnail. Guys, I am figuring this shit out. Pardon my French. And just as I pulled my cards out of the box here, I got the magic wand. This is the magician card, I would say, or the equivalent of. This is again in the Little Witch's Oracle deck that I'm using here. So funny and fitting. You know what? I'm just going to keep this card out and jump right into it because I'm seeing the blue of the snake. Here, I'll see. Blue and the white flowers. And here I am still in my blue and white shirt. Now this shirt, okay, I guess here's my tangent to start out. This was a sewing project. It used to be a dress. It's a thrift flip. You know, this, sorry here with the camera. Ooh, just when I think I get it right. So, so this used to be a dress, and I think of myself as a crafty person. You know, here's my magic wand, here's my sewing machine, bippity-boppity boo. I can make something out of nothing type of thing. And so when I first picked it up, I had this idea that I was going to sort of crop. It was a little sort of sundress, long knee-length looking thing, and I was going to crop it into a shirt and a pair of pants. But when I started to deconstruct it, I realized that the seams didn't line up and the pockets were kind of sewn into the seams, and it wasn't coming apart nicely, and it wasn't fitting my plan. And as often happens for me, or has in the past, I had a little bit of a meltdown. Tears, and I'm on the verge of giving up. And I told my son, I said, why do I even bother sewing? I should just get rid of my sewing machine. And it was this whole big moment. And then I finished my cry, and I finished my little pity party, and I dusted myself off and went back to it. And then I thought, okay, well, what if I just, ask the fabric what it wants to be? Look at it in a different way. Stop trying to make it fit into the plan that I had at the time, when I was just standing in the shop grabbing it because I liked the fabric. And think about it, look at it, see what's really there. See what's really there to be worked with. Again, the magic wand here is, it's that feeling of, look at what you have to work with. You can't create something out of nothing, not in this universe, not in this physical realm, right? You have to have something. I just was hearing Hermione's voice in one of the Harry Potters. I think it's maybe the 6th or 7th book, when they're wandering around looking for Horcruxes to destroy. They're looking for the magic wand, the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand of all. And she's talking to Harry and Ron about how, you can't just magic food into existence. You can multiply something that's there. You can transfigure something that's there. Is it Gamp's elemental laws? Someone put it down in the comments. The bigger Potterheads than I shall. But it's the same principle, is that you have to have something to start with. You have to have something to build off of and to work from. And so in any case, I looked at the fabric and I laid it out a different way, and I thought, it could be just a shirt, and it could have these, really, really big, flowy, epic kind of sleeves, and I bippity boppity booed it all together, and I ended up with this amazing shirt that fits me perfectly, and totally off script from what I thought it was going to be, but it ended up being one of my favorite projects. And since then, I've gone on to sew a few more things. Now, again, the magician card, the idea coming of the original tarot card, where the magician is standing there before a table holding up his magic wand, and the infinity symbol is above his head. The infinite possibilities, the quantum realm is open to him. His imagination is there, and all his other tools, the pentacle, the coin, the chalice, the sword, they're all laid out on the table. All his tools are there. He's ready to get started, but he's starting with what's there. He's starting with what he's got to work with. And yeah, this is a really interesting channel for me because, this just fell right out of the box. I hadn't even really thought about what I was going to say yet. I didn't even do my intro. Thanks for coming back. I'm Epiphany. I hope that always take what resonates, take what messages fit for you. I hope that this story has been an interesting starting place because it's so fitting. There's so many times in our lives, in my own life, I know for sure, where I have these big ideas. All I feel is the infinity swirling above me. Um, but it can be tough to pull something down from the ethers, to pull that idea down, to pull that creative inspiration, or the courage to try something new, or um, to put yourself out there in a new way, or especially with creative projects, it can be hard to ground that down to earth. Because and oftentimes our ideas, because of the nature of the quantum realm, everything exists in possibility. Um, but do you have the skills to actually do that? Do you have the time to actually do that? Do you have the resources, the energy, the tools? Um, or do you know where to find them? Can you pick up a new thing? Can you look at it and say, okay, if this is my plan, how do I get started? Is there a class I can take? Is there an expert I can ask? Are there inspirational, videos or books that I can start from? Because there's nothing new under the sun. And as a creative person, we often pressure ourselves to come up with something brand new. And this message was kind of being channeled through to me yesterday as well, is that it's okay to be inspired by something that exists. It's okay to not to plagiarize, not to steal ideas, not to, pass off another's work as your own, of course. No. And even if you were to try, you will never find the success that they will feel, because when you are authentic and when you truly have the magic, and I mean, the snake is representative of, the feminine force, the creativity, the passion. Um, when you are creating from your own authenticity, you will succeed in a way where someone who is imitating never can and never will. So, yes, we want to be original, but taking something and reworking it is okay too. I mean, even the fairy godmother in Cinderella, I keep saying bippity boppity boo. She didn't make something out of nothing. She turned a pumpkin into a carriage. She turned mice into horses. And she turned the tattered rags and the starlight into the dress for Cinderella. You always have to start with something. And the other half of that message that's been channeled through very strongly to me in the last week especially, is the idea of perfectionism. And, again, a lot of creatives have this feeling that anything they create has to be perfect the first time. It has to be unique. It has to be groundbreaking. It has to be life changing, and it has to be perfect. And that's just not how it works. And if anything, the feeling of needing to start with perfection in many cases just scares us away from even making an attempt. Whereas if we give it a solid try, I always start again with the fabric. I always start by taking it apart properly, cutting apart the seams, laying out all the fabric so that I'm able to really look at it, let my mind work, start my hands working at something, start the physical process, start doing something. Because once you start doing, then you are making space for inspiration to come to you. If you are stuck in your mind and you're thinking, what can I do? What should it be? How will it look? Is it going to be good enough? Are so and so going to like it? Is it going to, is it going to live up to this infinity symbol, this standard that I've set for myself? Even I was thinking, I think it's is it Descartes who spoke about the ethereal concept, let's say, of a chair, and that it's this floating idea that we all have. Although a chair can take many forms, it can have 3 legs or 4 legs, it can have a back or not, it could be round, it could be square, right? And we're able to look at many different shapes and styles and colors of chairs and recognize them all as chairs. And they all stem, in a sense, from this floating ethereal concept of a chair. But until you have cut a piece of wood or stitched a piece of fabric, or until you've done something, you have nothing. You have nothing to work with. You have nothing to be edited, nothing to be refined. Um, so starting is the most important thing, because once you have something on paper, if you're a writer, or once you have a few notes in a song, or once you have, a few stitches in the fabric, once you start, then you can look at it with a different lens, um, and critique it and improve upon it and analyze it, study it, try it on, test it out. And from there, you are able to curate it and modify it and, transfigure it into something newer and something better, something innovative. But the first thing is getting started. Um, so if you are like me and you are a creative person, you fancy yourself to be a creative person, but find in many cases your creative ideas are backlogging in your energy, right? Your art supplies are stacking up, and inspiration um, never grounds. This can be a really frustrating energy to be stuck in, because you're stuck, and you can't bring one idea through when the channel of creativity is clogged by all these other ideas, unfinished ideas. Not only that, but think about the emotional weight of having unfinished projects and unfinished ideas. Then you start to feel like a failure. You start to feel like you can't create, and you defeat yourself. You kick yourself while you're down, rather than just being able to, in many cases, let go and say, you know what? I have 10 million ideas for something creative I can do. Let's eliminate the ones that are out of my skill capacity at this moment. Let's eliminate the ones that I just don't have time for. Let's eliminate the ones that, require me to morph overnight into a person with the drive and the passion, or the skills that I just simply cannot get overnight. Let's brush away all the extras. Let's be realistic. Let's lay out our tools on the table, whatever tools those may be, and for whatever project. Let's let's just start with something. Let's get that creative energy, the snake, the kundalini. Let's get the energy flowing. Just make something, and you'll find, once you do that, the universe co-creates it with you. The fabric starts to tell you, hey, make me sleeves instead of pants. The pocket says, hey, turn me this way, and you can have a longer bodice, or those are just metaphors, of course, from my sewing experience, from my analogy. But make that fit in the creative capacity that you feel in your life. But we are all creative beings. That's the sacral chakra, the orange energy center, is meant for creation, not just sex, which is where a lot of that creative energy can often be mischanneled into, is that feeling, that urge to create something. Not just children, not just literal creating of life, but creating of ideas, creating of putting your life essence into a creation, painting something that speaks from your soul, writing a song that empties the emotions that you've been carrying. These are all ways to flush through the energy that has become stagnant in so many of us, myself included. And this has been a challenge that I've been really focusing on pushing through lately. So I think it's just really fitting that this card fell out. And the fairy godmother, if I can be for a minute, I'm going to wave my wand upon you. And now you have the inspiration that you've needed, or the motivation you couldn't find, or that little nudge, to get Cinderella up and at the ball. So there you go. I hope that resonated for someone. I hope that's been fun and interesting. If you like my videos, please feel free to stick around. Share a comment if you have any other ideas. And thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.